Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of 6 Degrees of Associations. We are excited to finally have this one on the books. Jade Autry, who we spoke with a couple of weeks ago, maybe about a month and a half ago now, Lucas, right?
Yeah.
Is a major connector in the industry. And I actually really love the story of how Jamie came to know Jay. So we'll talk about that a little bit in this episode. But we'd love to welcome our guest today, Jamie Beaulieu. Did I do it? Did I nail it?
You did it. That was perfect. Thank you,
Nice work.
Erin. Thank you, Lucas, for having me. I'm so excited to be here today.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, you come from the American Bankers Association, but I know that that's a recent transition for you. So I was hoping that maybe you could just kick us off in this, little conversation here around what your current role is, and maybe I'll share a little bit of the journey up to it, because I think that's what you and I sort of locked in on as being extremely helpful for our audience.
Absolutely. So that's right. I just joined the American Bankers Association about 4 months ago. As their newest senior vice president, overseeing executive education and CEO programs. The journey for me to ABA was actually a really interesting one. I've been in the association space for most of my career. I won't share exactly how long that is, but through that time, I've overseen so many different areas. I've worked for all different associations, big and small, and in many different industries. And really found a passion for membership and membership engagement throughout that journey, which actually in my last role, my last association role before ABA with the Society for Neuroscience, led me to overseeing professional development and running leadership development programs, which became a very big passion point for me. I was able to build out the Society's first branded leadership development program from concept through implementation. And it was at that point that I knew that this was, my next chapter within the association world, to really continue to create leaders within whatever industry I was able to become part of. And so it was with that led me to my current position, although there was a big snafu that happened in the meantime, which we'll just call COVID.
Yeah.
And so,
So one thing I wanted to pick up on there was that you were talking about whatever industry you land in, because I think one of the things that I found interesting when I was talking to you is just this idea that in the association world, you do probably join an association, assuming everyone there has expertise in the particular industry or whatever it is that it's representing. And I think that's just maybe a misnomer. And you have a unique view on how do individuals in the association industry actually transfer their skills on top of specific subject matters. Maybe you could talk us through that a little bit.
Absolutely. It's true. And I think it's true for some people. They are subject matter experts, and they choose as a career pathway to go and work for the professional society or the trade organization that represents their area of expertise. I came in the other way. At a certain point in my career, after I was already working with associations, a light bulb came on, and I realized, oh my goodness, association management and nonprofit, becoming a nonprofit executive is actually a career path. And it was at that point that I went on the CAE journey, the Certified Association Executive journey, and attained that credential, and realized that I have something to offer any industry. I could pick and choose because the skill set that I bring is association management. It's organizing groups of people that do have the same common industry knowledge, influence, a profession, as a group, to understand what their needs are as an industry, to help propel them as professionals or in a professional society context, or to help propel the industry in a trade association context. And as an association professional, I get to meet and learn from the people, the subject matter experts within that industry, to better understand how the association can move them forward and bring progress.
I love what you said there, Jamie. And I think it's a misnomer that development and research and especially professional development at the highest level has to be somebody within the industry to be promoted in order to do that. There are elements of professional development that you essentially said are universal, and you can bring people in that are the industry experts. But this type of, again, sort of universal education and is very synonymous with engagements that Aaron and I have talked about with some other guests, that, you know, certifications and educations are a huge way that associations have looked, especially in the past 18, 24, however many months we've been in this thing, to sort of look to for value outside of, you know, the traditional events and all that. And I would encourage a lot more associations to look at that. Are there certain sort of parts of your skill set that you would say lend you to this type of opportunity?
Yeah, I do. I think so. I mean, going back to even the degree I got in college, right? I am actually a broadcast journalist. I got a broadcast journalism degree, and I used it for a couple of years. Obviously, don't use it traditionally any longer, but I think that that aspect of curiosity that you garner as a journalist actually plays very nicely into what I do. I'm curious to know what people within my industry need and want, and what they hope for, and how they think. And asking those questions helps me to provide direction and recommendations in that realm. I also think that you know, networking skills are a really big component to what I do. I think one of the biggest values of an association is that ability to bring together professionals from all over the world in some cases. And they may not have had any opportunity to have met one another otherwise. We provide a venue for those meetings and collaborations and discussions and deliberations that bring about new ideas and diversity of thought into whatever industry that they are serving. So I think those are probably two of the skills that I bring to the table that really help to push the needle.
I love that. I love that you're connecting your college major
Got to
to,
put it
you know,
somewhere, right?
well, I mean, right. It has to come in handy. And I think that's, you know, I remember graduating with just a general marketing degree and going like, no one's told me what professions this is helpful in, or, you know, and how many times I've met people now in marketing, as an example, who studied like sociology or psychology. I'm like, oh, well, that actually makes a lot of sense because, you know how people behave. And, but I think that's great for people to understand, like taking the skills. So Lucas, your question, you know, specifically to like, what skill sets help you be great in this particular role is important, and not enough people probably evaluate what skill sets they're actually bringing to the table versus what degrees they have or certifications they have, which, you know, only cement what skill sets you've brought, right? But you need to be able to understand what those skill sets are. And you mentioned networking as being one of yours, and of course, our goal with this show is always to provide that sort of view that the association industry is huge, but also 6 degrees, you know, away from any one person, and often way closer than that. You and Lucas have, you know, just meeting each other today, but have one connection close, 1 degree. So how did that actually help you in the transitions as you went from industry to industry? Because again, most people would think, oh, well, if she was in neuroscience, then all the contacts she has now is neuroscience, right? So where is she going to go from there? So how did you help bridge the gap for yourself when you were trying to leverage your own network?
Yeah, I think that being a part of my own professional society, which is ASAE, the American Society of Association Executives, has really helped me to garner the connections that I need to help advance my own career. And so at the beginning of the session today, you noted that the way that I met Jay Daughtry was unique. I've never actually met Jay Daughtry in person. We met on Zoom throughout the pandemic. He was a person that I was introduced to during my career transition. And we developed a very collegial relationship in a virtual world that has been mutually beneficial so far. You know, going on our first year of friendship here. During my transition, I leaned on my network very hard, and found that it is the strongest possible unit out there that needs to be nurtured and fed and you know, all the time, not just in times of need. And I think that is probably the largest thing I'd want to convey about networking, that you know, always keep in touch with your network. There's always something that you can do for somebody else, and oftentimes there's something that they can do for you. But the majority of those conversations should be, how are we helping each other learn and grow,
Right.
not
Throughout
do
the year.
necessarily.
Right.
So I have I try to surround myself with people that are smarter than me.
Mhm.
just a as
Good
just a
plan.
rule of thumb. I always want to learn. I always want to learn from people, but I also I you know, I should caveat that I also enjoy enjoy a mentor relationship
Right.
also, and helping people grow. It goes both ways. But I uh, I think I always knew it, but I realized it more and more, especially through my career transition, that my
Sure.
network is probably the most important thing to me professionally.
Yeah. No, I love that because, oh, go ahead, Lucas.
I was going to say, yeah, I just echoing that the network is huge, and I've had the opportunity to see through my career associations network with each other in really interesting ways, and they have, you know, some of them have their executives have offsite, you know, meetings and retreats like the one that I'm attending now with not like associations necessarily in the same industry, but like associations in that, you know, it might be executives within national associations of professional associations or national associations of trade associations. And their whole purpose there is to just network and better understand what each other is doing to, you know, sort of better their own industry, their own association, their own staff, their members. I was curious, you know, are there people or network specific smaller groups that you've found, Jamie, and sort of continue to lean on even in your current position with ABA?
Yeah, I definitely have some more smaller niche groups. There's a local marketing group that I lean on and talk to and connect with from time to time. Also, there's a coffee chat group that was started by an association professional right at the beginning of the pandemic, and every morning, 5 days a week, 8:30 every morning,
Oh,
this
wow.
group meets, and I don't join them every day. I definitely have some competing priorities at 8:30 in the morning some days, but it's been a lovely group to connect with, whether it's just to say, how was your weekend, or to really start talking about how to tackle a particular issue or problem I'm running into in my day job.
Yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
great. You know, I love the openness of that, of like a standing call at 8:30, you know, if you could join, join, if you can't, you know, like that's fine, but having this place to go to where you can
That's
check
right.
in with colleagues. I mean, even pre-pandemic, that would have been helpful because we can't always be in two places at one time. But well, you know, I'm always the one who has to wrap us up so that we keep these short and sweet. But I just want to say, you know, what I think is really cool and valuable, Jamie, as we've heard your experience is, you know, you're head of executive education and CEO programs, which is, you know, certification, education, all of these other things, which you yourself have experienced, right? You have a CAE. That's fantastic. You are the person who's trying to pull people together within the network and so on and so forth, which you have had to leverage. So I love that you're bringing like such personal insights into how it's helpful for you. And then you belong to ASAE, which is your own association. So you're very familiar with like how people can interact within an association. So I think that's like a triple threat, but really great career there, that you actually have the experience of all of the things that you're also then trying to formulate the best engagement and experience for your members. So I think that's unique, and a lot more people, if they think about it in that way, can see what value they can bring to a different role in a different organization based on what they are experiencing themselves. It's another way to look at your skill set. So I appreciate you being here. It was really wonderful talking to you.
It was a lot of fun. I really had a great time. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Well, we always end, of course, on we got to keep this 6 degrees going. We got to keep making the world smaller for everybody in the association industry. So we would love to know if there's someone out there that you think we should talk to that our audience could benefit hearing from.
Absolutely. I will connect you with 2 people, in fact.
I love it.
The first is Lowell Applebaum. He is the founder of Vistacova, which is a firm that specializes in strategic planning at the board level. Lowell and I, gosh, met many moons ago, but I call him Mr. Association because I feel like he's a real connector, and he knows a lot of people, and we share that commonality of curiosity, and he and I have had many a good association chat, and I think you'll enjoy talking to him. And the other person I will direct you to is Tom Dobbins, who heads up Porter's Creek Solutions, which specializes in leadership and organizational planning, communications, advocacy. Tom is a veteran association CEO as well. And he and I actually were in the same study group for the CAE, and that's how we met, many moons ago. So
numbers.
And I actually just introduced Tom and Lowell like within the last week.
So, completing the triangle.
They know each other. But both are excellent association execs that I think you'd have a good time with on this show, and they'd have a good time being here.
Awesome.
Excellent. Thank you, Jamie.
Those are two topics that I don't think we've dove deep into. So that sounds really exciting. I love it when we get sort of like a whole new fresh look of someone. That's what's so cool about this is like we're always meeting someone by connection of someone else. And then, oh my gosh, we're open to a whole different area of the industry. So that's great. Thanks so much, Jamie. I know it was long in the making. You and I were playing tag in our schedules, but we got it. We got it here. We're here. And I appreciate it.
Excellent. Thanks so much.